Hello, and before I start, I do have some sort of eye infection or hay fever or something, so my eye is slightly swollen. You might be able to see. I also shut a window on my finger, so it's been great. But basically, today I'm here to talk to you about ideological thinking and why it's wrong. And before I get into why it's wrong and all these various fun things to talk about, it's hard. I'll start with it's hard for human beings not to be ideological because it allows you to see the world in a certain way. I don't know how to word what I'm thinking. I've been thinking about it a lot though, and it is difficult for human beings not to be ideological in some ways because it gives them a way to explain the world and it's just easier. Basically, it's the path of least resistance. However, it leads to rigidity of thinking. It gives you a tinted view of the world, and that's never good because you can't see the truth. It does give you a goal to strive for, but I feel this goal should just be as it is to strive for, rather than an attempt to actually make it a reality. Like, when you wear, if you wear a red tinted lens, then the red in things will be made to look white, and the blue, like basically the color scheme will be changed. And if you then try and paint something while wearing this red lens and then look at it with, it'll look right to you, it'll look fine to you, but as soon as you take the red tinted lens off, or someone looks at it who isn't wearing this red lens, they'll see how weird it is, because you've been wearing the red tinted lenses that change the color scheme to the point where it's not actually real. It's not reality. It's reality through a lens. So this changes your thought pattern, and it exaggerates certain things. And this is a metaphor for the ideologies. They exaggerate certain things. They diminish certain things as problems, as issues, and they make certain things look neutral when in reality different things are neutral, different things are problems, different things are not problems. So when you wear this lens, it gives you a distorted view of reality. And since these ideologies diminish certain things as problems, they create an atmosphere where you can ignore certain things and you don't have to talk about them, which gives a very low resolution, as you aren't taking a low resolution view of the world and view of reality, as you are not taking into account all the possible factors. You're in fact ignoring some of them because to you they're a non-issue, they're not a problem, they're not required to be taken into account. So, for example, the ideological pursuit of equality leads you to be able to ignore people's right to freedom and to free speech, because in case it goes against the goal of equality, or if it promotes inequality. And this is not good, and it works in the inverse as well. Like, if you have an ideological goal of freedom, then you can ignore genuine problems such as poverty and racism. Like, if you're just totally ignoring that, for example, if there's a black man who's living in a town of anti-black racists and all the shop owners won't serve him, and there are libertarians and anarchists saying the shop owner should have the right to discriminate on the basis of race. I disagree with that, because where is that black man going to go to get served if all the shop owners won't sell him anything, won't allow him to buy a drink, won't allow him to buy food? Where is he going to go? And you can say, oh, well, the free market will decide, the free market will decide. The free market in that town will never decide, because all of the people in it are racists. And that's an extreme hypothetical, but it's at the extremes where you see the problems. So you should not be allowing shop owners to discriminate on the basis of race for the principle of freedom. You have to accept that sometimes principles have to be curtailed in the real world, because we don't live in an ideologically pure world, in either way, in socialist or libertarian. So there needs to be a compromise. It's really about balance. It's about how you have to accept that things won't always be your way. You can't always live 100% to your principles, and there has to be some sort of help for poor people and anti-discrimination laws. But at the same time, this cannot curtail freedom of speech. It cannot enforce equality because that's immoral, because you'll end up taking from people who have earned it. And all of these problems come from ideological thinking, the rigidity of not being able to compromise at all on the things that you're saying with anybody because you have determined the perfect outcome for the world, which I don't think anybody has. The world is inconsistent, it's got lots of grey areas, and as human beings, we're imperfect creatures. We have lots of grey areas, we've got lots of mess in our heads, and in the systems we create, these inconsistencies and grey areas manifest in ways that mean that one ideology can't fix all. It's not a one-size-fits-all problem. You have to take aspects from all sides of the political spectrum to assist in this. So, and the ideology that has combated this is liberalism. And liberalism is the only ideology that I can see that has any credibility left, any moral claims or credibility left, because even though liberalism is inconsistent, like all the other ideologies and all the other ways of thinking, as human beings are inconsistent and wrong on many things. So what it does to combat this, it's the only one that has a combat system in place for this, where you allow dissidents to raise their concerns and you allow dissenting voices to be heard, and you take into account their problems. And quite a lot of the time you can't just solve every problem with liberalism. You probably do have to take some aspects of like the socialistic way of thinking or like a libertarian way of thinking, and liberalism is really the combination of these two things, which is why you get different strains. You get the kind of conservative strain and you get the social liberal strain. And this happens because we can take into account the dissident voices and the opponents, as they may know. It seems to be based on the fact, to me, on the principle of they may know something that you don't. So it's like Jordan Peterson's rule. I forget which rule it was, what number it is, but it's assume the person you're talking to knows something you don't, because that's the way to grow as a person. It's the way to take into account all problems. It's like the proportional representation of ideologies, in my opinion. But in summary, ideological thinking leads to rigidity of thinking and makes you close your mind off to certain problems. It gives you the inability to change your mind as this rigidity manifests itself in the real world. It leaves you open to destruction and debate because you haven't taken into account all the possible solutions and all the possible problems for a start. It leaves you with holes in your thinking, holes in your logic. It leaves you weak to being proved wrong. But if you must choose an ideology, choose liberalism, because it at least has recognised this problem with ideologies and has given a system in which you can aid that. It promotes dialogue, it promotes acceptance of other voices, tolerance of other people, so that you don't have to have it all one way or all the other. You can pick and choose bits that give the most helpful solution to a problem. Thank you very much for watching. It's my thoughts on ideological ways of thinking and why it's wrong effectively. Thank you very much. If you like my videos, subscribe. I've had some new subscribers recently. I'm now up at 77, so thank you very much, everybody. It means a lot to me. If you like my videos, subscribe, share them, like them, comment, let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching.